Welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com. Hello and welcome, lovely people, to Friday with Derek, the Kid. November 12th, it is Week 10. The Detroit Lions are on their way to Heinz Field for a 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox. I learned the other day, I don't necessarily like Fox games. It's nothing against Fox or anything. It's just, I don't know, it gives me weird vibes compared to CBS. I guess it's just abnormal. I don't like change. Either way, the Steelers survived a lot of bad news on the injury front. The Lions come in here 0-8. Things are looking good. Derek, how's it going?
It's going, man. I'm excited about a 4-game win streak. Hopefully keep this thing rolling as they take on Detroit on Sunday.
4-game win streak is good. It's a trap game. You think this is a serious trap game?
I don't think trap games exist for this Steelers team, man. I think it's just going to be ugly all year. I think this is just kind of the style of play that the Steelers are going to have to play kind of the rest of the way. So I think it's just one of those games that will probably be closer than fans would like, but yeah.
Is it okay, so I agree with you this season. And any other year, this is a game the Steelers lose. I think we both agree on that one. There's actually no question about it. They'd probably get smoked. This season, I do agree. I think that the Steelers are very bad. Good enough to win and good enough to continue to win, but bad enough where they're not going to lose a game like this. So it is good news on the trap game. Before we get into Najee Harris playing against the Lions, a little Lions preview, I do want to talk to you about a college football game that happened on Thursday night between Pitt. Are you wearing the different shirt?
I am, yeah.
I didn't even notice. You should have had the camera like down the whole time.
Support my guy 7.
Pitt versus UNC last night, a Sam Howell versus Kenny Pickett matchup. I think at one point would have been looked at a little bigger, had a little bit more momentum behind it, but Sam Howell has kind of moved himself to the bottom or maybe even the second round of the NFL draft at this point. Kenny Pickett, on the other hand, is making waves. He's making moves. He could end up a Pittsburgh Steeler. Everybody believes that that's definitely a possibility. What'd you see from the game last night and from our dude Pickett over here in Pitt?
Kind of a crazy game, man. Like it was kind of a tale of two halves for Pitt and for Carolina, really. First half, I thought Kenny Pickett was phenomenal. I mean, he was almost surgical throwing the ball down the field. I think he hit 3 deep balls in the first half. He hit Jordan Addison for a beautiful play. Really accurate, good touch. Took care of the ball well. Thought he was just in a really good rhythm. And then the second half, things kind of stalled out. Thought he was a little bit flustered, a little bit. Protection wasn't as good. And I think that kind of affected him a little bit. But you saw like what makes Pickett so kind of intriguing. He's a really polished passer who's been in a great rhythm all season. I mean, he's been accurate to all 3 levels of the field. He's shown more mobility than I think people gave him credit for to start the season. So the only thing that I saw that were even like remotely concerning last night was just like his tendency a little bit to leave the pocket prematurely. And then he had the one really the interception on the screen pass late in the game that kind of allowed Carolina to almost win the game, but luckily the Pitt defense held. That was really a poor play on his part. But, I mean, I thought overall he played pretty well. Sam Howell, I mean, he's working with absolutely nothing over there in Carolina. I mean, if you think
is that the problem?
If you think the Steelers' offensive line is bad, please go watch Carolina. I mean, the dude is running for his life back there. But I think, Howell, he's a tough dude. Tough runner, can run around a little bit, has some mobility to him. Hit a couple really impressive deep balls as well. But he's so hard to evaluate just because, I mean, it's 2 seconds and he's running for his life back there. So Carolina lost a lot of pieces to the NFL last year. And like, you could just tell that that's kind of affected Howell's play where he's kind of been a little more up and down on the season.
Let me ask you this. There was a lot of doubt on Kenny Pickett coming into the season. And I even feel like even at the beginning when they were in that bit of a hot streak, is that doubt kind of gone? Have we seen enough of Kenny Pickett to say, yeah, you are an NFL? I mean, there's guys that are saying this dude could go number 1 overall.
Okay.
And then a month ago, people were saying he's not an NFL quarterback. Is it like Where are we at? What's your evaluation of it?
Yeah, so I mean, I know Kuiper has him in the QB1 discussion. I think McShay live on the broadcast last night had him in the same conversation. So I think for me, Pickett is a little bit of doesn't have enough of a high ceiling for me to go first round or like top of the first round type of conversation. But I mean, I could definitely see him being a starter in the league, like a baseline type of starter somewhere in the middle of the pack. That's going to be solid, maybe not spectacular. But I mean, with as accurate as he's been this season, his ability to push the ball down the field and, prove that he's not, a statue in the pocket by any means. I mean, definitely, I think he's going to be in that conversation for a first round. I mean, this quarterback class is bad. So, I mean, he's going to benefit probably from that as well. So,
well, yeah, obviously. But is he good enough is he good enough for the Steelers? The Steelers are not going to have a high first-round pick, and even if they do, I mean, the AFC is so bad right now, they could walk out of the AFC winners,
Yeah, I mean, is he good enough to start for the Steelers next year? I think so.
What?
If the supporting cast is better than what it is right now, they've got to get a consistent run game. The offensive line will have to improve pretty drastically. But I think that you can get starter level play from Kenny Pickett relatively early. I mean, he's an older prospect. Like, he's going to be a 24-year-old rookie. He does have like the small hands, but I mean, he's got a good frame to him. And I think like he could definitely translate rather quickly to the NFL just because of how much college ball he's played. I mean, he's been at Pitt for 5 years. He's their all-time record holder for passing yards now. I see baseline starter potential in Kenny Pickett. I don't know that I see much more than that. That's what would give me pause in the first round. But it would be a cool story, obviously for the Pitt fans that are also following the Steelers. So
I think that the Steelers, unfortunately, in a very bad quarterback draft, are kind of stuck with that. You have to go quarterback. If you're not going to sign somebody or make a move in the offseason, you have to obviously bring in a quarterback. Does Kenny Pickett, if he does end up in Pittsburgh, which is a big if, obviously, and I feel like you're going to say yes to this, or maybe you'll say no to this, and either way, it might upset some fans. Does he start over Mason Rudolph? That's the biggest question anybody cares about.
Does he start over Mason Rudolph week one? No.
Week one.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't even know 100% if it'll be a conversation between a rookie and Mason week one. I think Mason just may be the placeholder. Like, I don't know how much of an open competition we'll see. I think it might be one of those things where this is Mason's team, but he's a placeholder until the rookie's ready or until Mason struggles. So I don't know that he beats him out or he could beat him out week one, but I mean, anything could happen. We saw, I mean, heck, way back in 2004, Ben Roethlisberger was a third string quarterback heading into week one. And then boom, two quarterbacks go down and then, they win 15 straight games or whatever. So, I mean, anything could happen.
Anything could happen. I think if people had to guess or had to pick how it happens, the Ben Roethlisberger situation happens, unless you're our boy Smitty over here going the other way around. Mason Rudolph, obviously, like we've said it a bunch of times, not a fan favorite to Steelers Nation. Kenny Pickett definitely would be. I think that might change or alter how people view him and the expectations for him. I think that, like you've alluded to in our talks before, that he'll have a longer leash. They'll allow him to make more mistakes. The problem with that is that the Steelers, their supporting cast outside of the offensive line, relatively good, relatively large crowd. Yeah. Especially if they could keep guys like Anthony Miller next season. He's going to be a very cheap option. Maybe you can keep Juju depending on how that situation plays out. Your offensive line is hopefully better, at least more molded. Kenny Pickett could come into a lot. If that's the situation, what's the ceiling for Kenny? I guess what's the ceiling for both of them? Because if you bring in a rookie quarterback, no matter who it is, you can't say, oh, he's a Super Bowl champion in year one. That doesn't happen. But at the same time, you can't look at Mason Rudolph and say you're a Super Bowl champion year one, because that's probably not going to happen. What is the ceiling for whoever comes in here and plays quarterback next year?
I mean, there's a lot of big questions. I mean, they've got questions even free agency wise on the defensive side of the ball with Joe Hayden as a free agent. You know, you've got questions in the secondary. Terrell Edmonds a free agent.
Unless you're, who said it on? Somebody said it on the Monday night broadcast that James Pierre is a future superstar.
Yeah,
Use the word
yeah,
superstar.
I
Do you
heard
know
about
how
that.
few superstars there are on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL? Not enough to put James Pierre in there.
Yeah, I don't know what the ceiling would be, but I mean, I just think next year feels like a transitional year, and kind of this year has felt like that in a different way too. I know they were trying for one more run with Ben, but not sure they quite get to where they want to be. But next year is going to be different. I mean, it all depends on the quarterback play. I mean, I don't think it's realistic to expect to contend with a rookie, but I mean, I feel like with the time that Mason spent within the organization, you pretty much know about what you're going to get from him, in my opinion. And I don't think he offers you an incredibly high ceiling either. But, you know, they've still got some good building blocks in Watt and Fitzpatrick on the defensive side of the ball. It's really just about they need to fix this offensive line. This offensive line needs to continue to grow and develop, and they need to add top-end talent there too. If they do that, it'll be a good situation, in my opinion, for a young quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I do say I've been looking at the AFC in a very optimistic way. Can the Steelers win the Super Bowl this season? Probably. Like 9 out of 10, like 99% chance they cannot do that.
Yep.
Can they get there? Possibly. That's definitely a possibility. Anybody in the AFC right now could get there.
The AFC is just a complete mess, man. I mean, I agree
a mess. Yeah, like you're not. It's the divide between a might miss the playoffs NFC team and a top tier AFC team are pretty close. That's a scary place to be. Before we move on to the Steelers' injuries and Najee Harris and Chase Claypool and all that good stuff, what was said on ESPN, I don't know who said it. I was told after the game that among all of the nonsense that was said on the Monday night broadcast,
I heard it
James
was brutal.
Pierre, it was brutal. I heard it was brutal. I heard they suggested going for 2 when the Bears were up 1 or something, or were tied the game, made 0 sense. Obviously, the Najee Harris sleeping on the floor thing. And then I heard that they went on a pretty long rant about how James Pierre is a future superstar for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Pierre played like 10 snaps on
10,
Monday night.
He played exactly 10 snaps. But that fumble on special teams, that, you know, granted, is a good play.
It's a big play.
It's a good play, but this is special teams. It's not like you're running down trying to punch the ball out. You're going 110 miles per hour. You hit something, chances are something moves. It happened to be the ball. It was just good timing. It was a good play by James Pierre. I do like James Pierre. Superstar. Come on. On the injury front, the Pittsburgh Steelers head into Sunday with much, much better news than we imagined. After worry that Najee Harris might not be able to play after sustaining a foot injury. We're not sure when, but if I had to guess, it was Thursday at practice. He was limited. He came back on Friday, was a full participant. Again, a little bit of a scare because his media availability got canceled last minute. Obviously not a good sign. He has no injury tag. Clean as could be, along with center Kendrick Green, who had a hamstring injury on Thursday, an aggravation of an injury he's been dealing with pretty much all season long from time to time. At one point, this could have been a Benny Snell Jr., J.C. Hassenauer show, even against the Lions. It is not. How big of a disaster did the Steelers just avoid?
A big one. A really big one. Because I think I speak for pretty much everybody in Steelers Nation that I have absolutely no desire to see 20 carries between like Benny Snell, Kalen Ballage, any of those guys. I mean, the run game has been has been more bad than good, and that's with Najee. And I think we all agree that most of that blame could be placed on the offensive line. So it's a really good thing. Like they need Najee Harris to be healthy throughout the rest of the season, really, especially like with how limited Ben's been at times and like them trying to keep him healthy and upright as he's dealing with multiple injuries of his own. So and over the win streak too, like, I mean, they've kind of reduced the amount of dropbacks and potential scares for injuries for him. So I think that's kind of the reason you need Najee Harris is because you got to Ben can't do what he did last year and lead the Steelers to the playoffs, throwing the ball 600 times. Like he his body's not going to hold up. So it's a really good thing for the Steelers that Najee's healthy. I'm excited to see if this offensive line can rebound against this Detroit front after really, really struggling and honestly getting their butts handed to them a little bit by Chicago last week in the trenches.
Yeah, I agree. It is a good opportunity for a bounce back, especially for Kendrick Green, who had a pretty bad game against Chicago.
I mean, and shout out to Eddie Goldman and Akeem Hicks.
Yeah.
They absolutely I know we've harped on a lot about how bad, the interior offensive line, Dan Moore, they played on Monday night. But, Chicago came in there and they fought and they dominated up front. So, I mean, you got to give credit to them too.
Yeah, of course, obviously. And Kendrick Green's a rookie. Dan Moore's a rookie. Yep. I think Dan Moore's leash is definitely a little shorter. But when Kendrick Green screws up, I just say, well, eventually he's going to have a good game. That's what he's had all season. Yeah. When it comes to the running backs, man, that could have been bad. Because like you said, you can't ask Ben to throw the ball 60 times a game. But that's what you would have to do if Najee does not play, which is concerning heading into the game because if he has a foot injury, he's a workhorse. I get that. And I never expect somebody to get hurt during a game. But if he has to take some time off and it's just Benny Snell and Kalen Ballage who have proven nothing, but apparently have proven enough to make Anthony McFarland inactive on Monday night, it could be a complete disaster. I said earlier, Anthony Miller, call him up from the practice squad, toss him in the backfield, see what he could do. Just see what could happen. They will avoid that. I think this week, though, when it comes to the Najee thing, it kind of just puts emphasis. You got to let Anthony McFarland get some groove going in this thing. For one, you have to make him active. It makes no sense for him not to be active last week. This week makes even less sense because Benny Snell has proven nothing and continues to prove nothing. Kalen Ballage, I get it. He had more upside or he's a better player than Jalen Samuels. He's not a better player than Anthony McFarland. He's not somebody that's going to be a lead or a feature back anywhere. It needs to be a game where McFarland at least has some groove, takes some pressure off of Najee at the same time. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't think we'll know that until Sunday, but it didn't make any sense for him not to be there on Monday. And if he's not there on Sunday, I think that's another concern. When it comes to the wide receivers, no Chase Claypool, obviously dealing with the toe injury. He's week to week. No Juju. It's just a Deontay James Washington who played well on Monday. And Ray McLeod show with good old Cody White coming off the bench and maybe Anthony Miller coming up from the practice squad. It's the Lions, but is that still a little bit concerning?
I think if you're going to pick a week to do it, this is the week. But I would 100% be in favor of getting Anthony Miller some snaps on offense on Monday or on Sunday. Ray's a really limited receiver. I mean, even with Juju being down, you haven't really seen him pick up his production despite this number of snaps that he's played. James Washington's really going to take over that Z position now that Chase Claypool's out for at least a week or two with the toe injury. So I'd love to see them work Anthony Miller in there just because I think he has more upside as a receiver. He's proven to, at least at times through his career, even though the inconsistencies and things like that kind of have plagued him, he's at least proven to be an NFL receiver. And that's kind of more than you could say for guys like Ray McLeod and Cody White, who really haven't been able to do much, if anything, like when they're on the field. Cody White really hasn't played much offense at all in recent weeks, even now that he's on the 53. So I see no reason why you can't try to implement Anthony Miller into this offense and just try to see what you got in him. Who knows? Maybe he can give you a little bit of a spark.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how much of a spark the Steelers offense could even generate at this point outside of just anything from Najee. There is Eric Ebron back this week. Do you expect him to do anything?
I hope so, man. I still am holding out a little bit of hope that maybe Ebron. I thought about this when Juju went down, but we didn't really see it before Ebron got hurt the past 2 weeks. But I kind of thought Juju being down, maybe they work Ebron a little more in the slot. In some of those detached roles where he can kind of work over the middle or underneath, but Eric's going to have to catch the ball. That's the thing. I think that's been he had a couple drops early in the season, and then now we've seen the emergence of Zach Gentry, who's been pretty reliable the couple times he's been throwing the ball. He's also a better blocker than Eric Ebron is. So who knows? I'm hopeful that they'll be able to use him in some form or fashion, even if it's only for 15, 20 snaps or something like that in the passing game. But we'll see. I'm interested to see like the division of labor between like the receivers and the tight ends this week without Chase Claypool. So
could definitely be a lot of tight end use. I don't think I thought about that. Maybe a little 13 personnel. When it comes to the Detroit Lions, 0-8, Jared Goff, it's a very underwhelming team, but there are some good parts. There are also some very bad parts. We're going to start with the offense. When you look at the Lions offense, what stands out to you in both a good way, in a way that the Steelers might be able to take advantage of?
Yeah, I mean, Goff's been around a long time. He's got a good amount of experience for a first-round pick. We all know about what happened in his fallout with the Rams, but I think really it starts up front. I mean, they have some big news this week. They get Taylor Decker back, their left tackle, who's been a really good player for several years now. He's missed the first 8 games of the season, I think, dealing with a finger injury, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But that's also going to slide their first-round pick, Penei Sewell, back over to right tackle, where he kind of struggled a little bit at times this season. We all know who he's going to be lining up against, which would be T.J. Watt. So that's the big thing for them. I mean, Goff has not pushed the ball down the field at all this year. His average yards per target is actually like 0.4 lower than Ben, and we've seen the Steelers are throwing shovel passes. That's what their offense is reduced to at some point. So, he's not pushed the ball down the field. He's checking the ball down to the running backs. Receiver-wise, I mean, they've got a guy that I do kind of like coming out of USC, Amon-Ra St. Brown, guy that can really get open in the slot, good route runner, pretty tough. I like him after the catch too. But their other receivers like Khalif Raymond has had his career year with multiple starts now. I think they did claim Josh Reynolds from the Titans, who asked for his release this week. So we'll see if he even plays. I don't know. He's only practiced like one day with them.
I was going to say, he just showed up yesterday. So that was a tough
really,
one.
the running backs are probably like the redeeming quality, in my opinion, of the offense. I mean, Jamal Williams been a really good committee back for a little bit now. He was in Green Bay to kind of spell Aaron Jones. And DeAndre Swift, I mean, I think we all know how talented he is. He's kind of hit his stride a little bit this year too and looked impressive at times. So really it's just going to come down to, in my opinion, if Detroit can at least hold their own up in the trenches with their kind of plan at left tackle now fully in the fold.
What about TJ Hawkinson?
Yeah. I misspoke. Let me say TJ's probably the number one priority as far as like in the passing game.
Yeah.
He's had a good year. I just think he's really limited with Goff, and he can only do so much. But I won't be surprised if they try to get him more involved. I think he had like 10 or 11 targets last week, had a pretty good game, but he hasn't scored since like the beginning of the season. And some of that's like I see him open on tape. And Goff just not being able to get him the ball. Goff's been sacked a lot, like 22 times or something like that, 5 times just last week against Philly. But I expect, the Steelers have had a habit over the course of the season of double teaming and really prioritizing the opposing team's best weapon and not letting them beat them. So TJ's probably going to fall in that kind of category this year where he's going to see a lot of attention.
Let me ask this question because I asked it to Joe Shelbert the other day, and he was pretty adamant that like Jared Goff's a good football player. He's just in a really bad situation. I think a lot of people disagree with that comment. I don't know how I feel about that comment. When you look at Jared Goff, is it the Lions? Did Jared Goff just say, okay, I got screwed out of LA? Somehow I ended up here with Dan Campbell and a bunch of nobodies? Or is he a fairly easy quarterback to pick apart?
I just think Jared's a little bit limited in some of the stuff that he can do. And I also think he was playing really, really confident at McVay's system a couple years ago. And that kind of magic has just kind of worn off. Like he hasn't been willing to push the ball down the field as much. Some of that is surroundings. I mean, quarterback play is, unless you're like a transcendent talent, a top 5, top 10 quarterback, you're always going to be a victim of your kind of circumstances. If your offensive line's not playing well, if your running game's not flourishing. I mean, the Lions aren't really doing very much of anything positive, especially offensively. So, does the quarterback deserve blame for that? Absolutely. I think there's been times where Goff's hurt them and almost killed them out of games. But, Goff is capable. I mean, we've seen him play at a high level, at least in the NFL. So, it's any given Sunday, and I know that Tomlin's going to probably preach that into their their guy's head this week too, that like, don't be surprised if he comes out and looks like he did a couple of years ago, if the situation's good.
Yeah, if the situation's good. You said last week, I think you were like, this is Justin Fields, 4 interceptions. I think
and they didn't do it.
They didn't do it. I think you could have been a little bit of a week early. Could be a Jared Goff situation.
Maybe.
Flipping sides of the ball here, the defense, not a lot of big names, obviously, or honestly, a defense that I don't even want to say is underwhelming, but just for the last couple of years, as they've just slowly gotten rid of a lot of superstars, have just become like something you don't even think about. When you dug into the film a little bit, what did you see on the defensive side?
Yeah, I mean,
that was not
again, it's kind of the same thing as the offense, man. They're not really doing like a ton of great things defensively either.
Obviously, they're 0-8.
Yeah, I mean, they've spent a lot of money on Trey Flowers and the guy from the edge rusher from New England.
Yep.
He really has not been productive at all for them. Only has like a sack and a half on the season. It's just a defense that's really, I think, trying to figure some stuff out. I mean, they've dealt with some injuries. When you take a guy like Jeff Okudah at the very top of the first round and then he gets injured almost immediately, that puts a dent into your plans because you're expecting him to be like a shutdown one type of the field type of corner, and he's just not like that. They've even tried some like reclamation projects like Charles Harris, former first-round pick from Miami, and just that hasn't really came to fruition either. So I think it's a team that's just very much like the offensive side of the ball. They're piecing guys together, and they're just not having much success. So I think this is a potentially good game for the offense. I mean, you're not going to get very many better matchups, whether you want to throw the ball or run the ball. I mean, they're near the bottom of the league pretty much in every category defensively. They only have a handful of interceptions or turnovers on the year. So this is a game where the offense should not have problems, at least moving the football and putting up like a respectable amount of points at home.
That's the perfect lead-in, actually. A respectable amount of points. What is a respectable amount of points? Because SI Sportsbook says it's 42.5. And I said there's not a chance in hell that they're scoring 42.5 points combined in Week 10 against the Lions. I don't think it happens. Let's get into some predictions here. We'll start there. The 42.5 over-under. You just said that the offense could put up respectable points. Last week, you were the only one that called all of it, actually.
No, I didn't. I got the Steelers covering wrong.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I did call the over, though. And the over hit, like, big time.
Yeah. Over definitely hit. Was pretty upset about that one. Because that was pretty ridiculous.
What's your prediction? What did you say earlier in the week?
I said under. I said definitely under on I think overall I went. So it's an 8-point spread. I did not take the 8-point spread, and I also went under on the 42.5.
Okay. Yeah, give me under, and I'll go 24-17 Steelers.
24. So does not cover the spread.
Don't cover, but they win.
Goes over. 24-17.
No, under. Isn't the spread's 42?
I was going to say, 42.5. I was like, that doesn't.
24-17 Steelers, it will be my guess.
That's a lot of points for Jared Goff to score, I feel like.
Maybe I'm saying like backdoor cover, like a late. I mean, we know, like, listen, another thing that we're not talking enough about probably with this Steelers defense is the Steelers defense has been kind of bad in some second halves. I mean, we saw it against Chicago on Monday night, allowing over 400 yards to a rookie quarterback in his first primetime start, and that debacle second half, letting them go right down the field to win the game. That's really concerning to me. So, like, that's another thing. Like, the Steelers could easily give up, like, a late fourth quarter touchdown or something like that. I don't know that it'll be, like, 7-point close throughout the game, but it just feels like the Steelers are, because their offense is a little limited, that they're incapable of blowing a team out. And I guess I keep saying it every week on here that the Steelers are going to have this breakout game and they're going to force, 4 or 5 turnovers. But it just has not happened. It has not happened. The defense hasn't produced any splash, and that's really why they've kind of been trending like just kind of in the middle of the pack as far as like most statistics or advanced stats. They just haven't really been able to turn teams over. So maybe they do this week and they blow Detroit out, but I'm going to stay safe and I'm going to call the under and they win, but they don't cover.
They don't cover. I do agree. And I think the second half thing is very concerning. I think the reason we aren't talking about it, it is being talked about, and like all these player media availabilities, it's constantly being talked about, but it kind of doesn't have much relevance right now because it's the Lions. I think next week against the Chargers, it's like, okay, well, you let off a second half comeback against the Chargers, you give up 100 rushing yards in the third quarter against the Chargers, chances are you're going to lose that football game. You could probably give up 100 rushing yards in the third quarter to DeAndre Swift and still walk away 24-17 winners.
Sure.
Pretty
easily. The one thing that I will say too about the defense is like they have been really good in the red zone, which has been great. I mean, that's one of the areas that if you're going to have a really good defense, that's where you want to be good on is third downs, the red zone. The takeaways is where they've had a lot of problems, but going down the stretch here, though, like once they get past Jared Goff, I mean, there's no more Jared Goffs and Justin Fields or Geno Smith left on the schedule.
No,
that's why I think like this week they need a get right type of game for the defense because like the schedule down the stretch is Patrick Mahomes, it's Justin Herbert, it's Lamar Jackson twice, Baker Mayfield, whatever, Joe Burrow, played really well enough against them in the first matchup, so. This is a schedule that gets tougher for the defense down the stretch, and they're going to have to play much better than they did on Monday night.
I do want to real quick before we get out. Me and Donnie went through this the other day, and I got his opinions on it. I want to get your opinions on it too, because I've said a couple of times on this episode that the Steelers might be able to win the AFC, and I'm actually a firm believer in that, just because the AFC is so bad, but also because their schedule gives them plenty of opportunities to do so. I want to run through the schedule with you. 5-3 right now. We both chalk up the Lions as a win. As we go through game by game, I want to see what your predictions are for not score predictions, but win or loss, to see where they could possibly finish. Week 11 at the Chargers. What are you feeling?
That game's in primetime?
That is in primetime. 8:20 Sunday night. Stumped you on the first one here.
Yeah, I'll say loss.
Okay. Week 12, 1:00 game at Cincy.
Win
at Cincy. Cincy is pretty bad right now. Comeback 4:25 game, which is always a weird time against the Baltimore Ravens. First time they're seeing Lamar Jackson, but it is at home.
Win.
Okay. At the Minnesota Vikings, Thursday night game. But it's
lost.
Still Kirk Cousins. A loss to Kirk Cousins and the Vikings.
Yeah.
In prime time.
I don't know. I've had that game circled like it was going to be terrible. And I'm going to have to watch that game from work. Like I won't actually be off work to watch it. So I've been just dreading that day for a long time.
All right. So all around real bad day for Derek and the Pittsburgh Steelers on December 9th. Nobody even watch. All right. Coming back home, Tennessee Titans, which could be huge. AFC leading Tennessee Titans right now, week 15.
I'll say win.
Oh, okay. Heating up. Derrick Henry's still not back. That's cool. Week 16, things are getting real serious right now. Going to Arrowhead to play the Chiefs at another 4:25 game. Oh, quick loss there to Patty Mahomes. Week 17, coming back home, Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield in primetime on Monday night.
Win.
Oh, snap. And then finishing off the season at Baltimore.
I'll say
Your
loss.
record, a loss. All right, so.
But let me I don't know about the win-loss against Baltimore.
Yeah.
As far as like when they're going to win, lose, I do think they'll split with them. The Steelers play Lamar really well, so whether they win that first matchup or win the second one, I don't think Baltimore can sweep us. But, I mean, it just depends on what Baltimore game you get. I mean, they've been like us. They've been in a lot of close games, probably won more games than they should have. But with the way the Steelers have kind of defended Lamar and been able to turn him over in the recent weeks, and also kind of an underrated fact, but Baltimore hasn't beat Big Ben in a while. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's cute, beating Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, but, it's a little different when number 7's behind center. So
it's cute beating Duck Hodges. Very true.
I
Your
don't,
prediction right now.
I don't see them sweeping us.
No, I always split the Baltimore games. That's just like a rule of thumb. We'll obviously come back to this in the upcoming weeks, but if we had to break it down right now, you're saying 10-7 for the Steelers this season. I think that could easily get them at least a top 3 seed in the AFC. Yeah. If we're looking at this,
I'm still holding out hope that the defense is going to play like an elite unit. And if the offense continues to just be what it has the past month, or maybe just a little bit better, I think originally when I was running through it earlier today, I think I gave them 9-8, but I'll go 10-7. I'll be optimistic for the
10-7 is a good record. I think for the beginning of the season, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is a 11-6 team," and then there was a lot of teams that are like, "Yeah, this is an 8-9 team. This is definitely an 8-9 team."
I mean, heck, a month ago we might have thought this was a
That's
top,
what I'm
saying.
A month ago, this was 4 wins max, and this was win number 2 coming against the Lions. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at All Steelers and follow us on Twitter at Nostrack, at Steelers_DB. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Steelers football on Sunday, and we will see you next week.